That's right. It's time to go global now with Laddie Williams.
Good morning, Ini. Fun fact today, this is the final full trading week of 2025.
Glory.
So whatever you have to do quick.
Do it well.
And do it well. At this point.
And Laddie, did you also know that today is the World Tea Day, International World Tea Day?
Tea? Like tea?
T-E-A.
Drinking?
Yeah.
I love tea.
Fantastic. So it's your day.
So today I'm going to drink all kinds of teas, hibiscus, green tea, all of them at this point to celebrate. All right, let's get a check on what's playing out with the markets. Now, we see global markets are bracing for a pivotal week as major central banks, a flood of economic data, that's taking center stage, just as liquidity, thins, heading into Christmas and New Year period. Policy decisions from three systemically important central banks. That's the European Central Bank, Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, alongside key inflation, jobs, and consumer data across major economies. That's set to shape expectations on growth, inflation, and interest rates. That's the expectations for this week. All right. To our discussion now, we have central bank meetings. We have the ECB forecasts. They're going to hold interest rates. We have the BoE. We see there's a cut expected. That's from the Bank of England. Then we see for the Bank of Japan, they're expecting a hike of about 25 basis points there. So these are very important economies, and they're going to be deciding on interest rates this week. All right, let's discuss this now. Joining for this conversation, we have Julian Cariguesi, as an economist and former special advisor at the Ministry of Finance in Canada. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Laddie. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. It's been a while. So, this week,
yes,
three major central banks, but they're moving in different directions. We have a hold, hike, and a cut, from these banks. Tell us what this divergence is, telling us about the state of the global economy right now.
It's actually very interesting in one way, in terms of real economic growth. The big economic areas of the political West, the United States, Japan, and the Euro area and the UK, they do seem to be converging around growth, although some growth rates are rising and other areas are falling. So there's convergence there, but there's divergence in policy, because when you bring inflation into it, there are different inflation dynamics. So you see inflation in the Euro area decelerating, coming down. Inflation in the United States has been more sticky. Inflation in the United Kingdom has come down, and which is giving them space to reduce interest rates. And you see inflation in Japan much higher now than traditionally in the 1990s and for the most of the 21st century. So there's room also to increase interest rates in Japan. So it's quite a bit of divergence, in part explained by different inflation dynamics.
So is this level of policy divergence, is it unusual, or are we just returning to a more, country-specific monetary cycle after years of, synchronized, tightening?
I think it is going back to what we saw in the long aftermath of the global financial crisis. We saw much more synchronicity in the wake of COVID, because the supply disruptions and the pent-up demand that was created during COVID led most central banks into a tightening cycle post-COVID to get those inflation rates down. But now what we're seeing is something, you could say, some kind of normalization which occurred between the end of the financial crisis and the beginning of COVID, which was a lot of monetary policy divergence, particularly between the United States, Europe, Japan, and the UK.
Would the ECB expected to hold rates? What signals will markets be watching for in President Lagarde's guidance?
Well, I think it's interesting with Europe, growth is quite sluggish. The inflation rate is down to their range of about 2%. It's expected to fall, the underlying inflation rate, to 1.9% in 2026. They're expected to remain on hold, and yet private capital formation, private investment has been sluggish. So I think markets, in terms of forward guidance, are going to be looking for signs of easing in 2026, which will help spur private investment. Although planned increases in defense spending in the big European countries will probably provide a boost to both public and private investment in 2026.
So markets are pricing in a 25 basis point cut by the Bank of England. What would you say has changed in the UK economy, so far to justify, easing now?
Well, it's interesting. We saw the economy, and this is only 1 month, but you saw the economy shrink slightly in the month of October. But that contraction of real GDP in the UK in October followed 4 months of absolutely zero economic growth. And so you saw also a budget in the UK that weighed on the side. It was a mix of austerity in terms of government consumption and some planned increases in government investment. And so given the UK budget was tighter than expected, more austere than expected, and you've had now 4 months of zero growth and then a contraction in October, and not really a strong or robust outlook for the remainder of this year, that's given the Bank of England quite a bit of space to reduce interest rates.
All right, thank you so much. Julian, it was great having you. Julian Carreguesa, economist and former special advisor to the Ministry of Finance, Canada. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, very quickly now to all the stories. See, India's wholesale prices that fell 0.32% year-on-year in November, a smaller decline compared to the 1.21% drop recorded in the previous month. That's according to government data released today. The November figure came in above economists' expectations, as the Reuters poll had projected wholesale prices to fall by 0.6% year-on-year for the month. The moderation in the wholesale price decline was attributed to food prices decreasing at a slower pace during November, according to the data. Then we see Korea's zinc shares surge today after Reuters reports that the company's board is set to discuss plans for a major smelter project in the U.S. All right, those are the top stories for this morning in the global economy. Definitely give you more updates at 1:30.